So have you ever wanted a new revolutionary image format that absolutely blows every other format out of the water, like PNGs, JPEGs, the useless WebP image format, or anything like that? Because, I mean, if you're anything like me, honestly, I didn't really want this either. But regardless, I've still been working to make a new image format. This is called the Slimage format. It is completely up to your interpretation as to what the SL there stands for. So these videos are mostly just going to serve as documentation for a small project I'm working on. Updating this will be slow. There's quite a bit on the to-do list, but unfortunately I have a lot of other stuff to be doing right now as well. But I will still be occasionally releasing updates for the program as well as videos just covering what I did in the updates. Maybe describing how a lot of my stuff works because there will be some pretty complex stuff going on in the future. So how we actually use this here, let's open up our terminal. Currently this only works on Windows or on Linux, not on Windows, because I'm using the X11 library to just draw pixels onto open a window and draw pixels onto my screen, I should say. Unfortunately, if you know anything about Linux, X11 is a Linux exclusive thing. It does not work on Windows at all. So let's type in SLimage into our command line here, and we'll get a usage. So the first thing that we have to specify to it is a mode. There's two main modes to our program. First is read mode, which obviously lets you read or view an image. The second is edit mode, which lets you edit an image. So let's start off with reading an image. Off to the left I have a few example images. It's in the GitHub repository, which I'll put in the description below. Let's start off with scenery. Scenery was the first thing I ever drew with this. And look at that. It's some beautiful nighttime scenery, some mountains in the background, a lake, the moon, and stars. Beautiful. We also got some other stuff I've made here. A little guitar. Look at that. As well as actually some computer generated ones that I mathematically generated before the editor was a thing. So we could take a look at those with matrix.slmg. And I don't know, what else do we got in here? Grid, I think grid. Yeah, look at that. Beautiful. So next up we have our editor mode. So by default, if you type in E with no arguments, it'll open an editor window for a 512 by 512 image called unnamed.slmg. But for now, let's give it an actual file name here. So B, we'll drop B, b.slmg, and then we'll make this guy 512 by 512. So here we are, here's the editor. Right now there's no GUI. I do plan on implementing that in the future, but as I mentioned earlier, I'm using X11, which only lets me draw pixels on a screen. There's not much I could really use to create buttons or whatnot, so I'll be doing all that kind of stuff from scratch, so it'll take a little while. So, which means this will be completely keybind driven. So to increase our brush size here, we're going to hit the plus and minus keys. As you can see over here, it's telling us a new brush radius. Make it bigger, make it smaller, whatever. So if we actually go to draw here, left click on the window, look at that. We can make some drawings. So to draw a bee, let's see, what do we want? We probably want to be able to change the color. So to change the color, we're going to use 7, 8, and 9 to increase the red, green, or blue values, and then 4, 5, and 6 to increase or to decrease the red, green, and blue values. That's all on the number pad. So we probably want to start ourselves off with nice green, blue and green there. There we go. So give us a nice light blue sky. Yeah, look at that. Let's make our brush bigger so it's a little easier to fill out our window. There we go. Let's make our brush smaller, and we need to make some yellow here for the bee. Bees are usually yellow. I'm not making an evil hornet, so let's give it a lot of red over here. And let's give it probably a lot of green too. I think a lot of red and green should make a good vibrant yellow. Let's draw a little oval here. It's going to be our bee's body. Obviously the classic bumblebee needs some black stripes, so let's go here. Decrease our brush size, probably. Get some black, there we go. And give him some stripes there, yeah. Look at that. Not a bee without a little smiley face. Let's make it a little bigger. There we go. And a stinger. Let's give him a stinger. Needs a couple legs here. And let's make some wings. Wings we probably want to be white. So let's just max out our red, green, and blue. Turn up our brush radius. There we go. Look at that. I now have a bee that can fly around. So to actually save this image, we're going to press S on our keyboard. It's S, and as you can see here, it says saved image in the terminal. You can also press Q, which will save and quit the editor, like that. Or we can just hit escape, which will exit without saving. So in terms of the actual image format itself, if we go here and view this image that we just created, the .slmg extension does not determine at all whether this can be read or not. That is just simply for identification by us. Whether or not our program here can actually read it depends on the header. So the first 4 bytes here, FF, A5, FF, E8, is the header I've chosen for a slimage. It means absolutely nothing other than just a unique identifier so that my program can identify whether the thing you're giving it is an actual image or not. So the next 8 bytes are actually 2 32-bit integers containing the size of the image. So here, 00020000 in little endian format is 512 by another 0002, by 512. So this will give us our actual image dimensions, so 512 by 512, and that will also determine the number of bytes that are read from here on out. So from this byte on out, 0C down to however long your image is going to be the actual image data stream itself. In this case, ending all the way down here. Now in the future, I will add some other metadata type things like an image description and whatnot. I am also going to be working on compression because currently this is all raw pixel data. That image I just created is a 1 megabyte image for 512 by 512 pixels. I'm going to attempt to do this completely from scratch. I have very little idea on how actual image compression works. I was kind of playing around with the binary tree way of doing text compression, but that doesn't really work in this case, but I'll figure something out. So currently, future plans, I have to obviously implement the GUI, with a color picker, brushes, whatnot. We're going to have more brushes as well as a scalable window and a zoom function, because currently, if I want to edit an image, let's actually go edit, let's say the matrix image, .slmg, and draw something on here. If I want to get really down in there and edit something small, it's going to be really hard for me to do because there's no way to zoom. And with this being how big of an image? Let's go back to the viewer, change this to an R. With this being a 1920 by 1080 pixel image, yeah, it's going to be pretty hard to be accurate on. So we've also got color opacity. Currently, if you are actually paying attention to the colors up here, the first 2 bytes here are the alpha, or the first byte here, I should say, sorry, is the alpha. That you can actually change with the 1 and 0 on the number pad, but it does nothing currently. I have to go into the editor here and change up my code for how we actually calculate the color data for a pixel. Obviously, implement image descriptions I talked about earlier. I'm going to make a separate tool to convert PNGs to slimages, or maybe slimages to PNGs and whatnot, as well as a bucket fill tool and just basic optimizations and whatnot. So this is still in a pretty early development. I still have a lot of work to do, but be on the lookout. I'm going to be updating this a lot. It's going to be revolutionary.